Welcome back to the YouTube home for BamaOnLine.com. It is a Sunday afternoon. News never stops right there at BOL. And so it is another breaking news edition of the program. Travis Reier, senior analyst for BOL, alongside Andrew Bone, senior recruiting analyst for us there at Bama Online. Of course, just below me there, Tim Watts, site publisher at BOL and Diagonal. We're quad box today. That's right. The one, the only Joseph Hastings on board as well. Tim Watts, the news of the day, Jaden Harmon, four-star linebacker from Rome, Georgia, the latest defensive player to cast his lot with the Crimson Tide. Give us some initial thoughts there.
He's a thumper, right? That's what the old school guys used to call it. He'll chase you down. He'll hit you. He'll lay pads to you. Probably a little bit closer to 210 pounds right now than 205 he's listed. But when you watch him, he's that guy you and I talk about, me and Andrew talk about, the find ball, get ball, sick him. That's what he is as a linebacker, sideline to sideline, good speed, and will deliver the hit with authority. So, again, I know the jokes are running deep with the linebackers being committed. But they felt they wanted to fill the room. They had a list of 8, and they went and got, 4 of them already.
Yeah, I guess, Andrew, you can talk about the quantity if you want to with this linebacker class already for 2025. But again, as Tim alluded to, you watch Jaden Harmon on tape. We'll do that coming up here in just a little bit, get into his huddle highlights. This is a guy that can thump. He can play in space. We see him off the ball. We see him in coverage. He looks projectable at 2 or 3 different positions in this Kane Womack defense, and versatility, as we know, is ever important in 2024. And give us your thoughts initially on this pickup.
That's kind of what we've seen with most of the linebackers in this class, probably outside of Abdul Sanders, who's in that 220, 225 pound range. With Luke Metz, Duke Johnson, Jaden Harmon. These are all guys who are 6'2", 210, 215 pounds. They can run, they can hit. They're very athletic. As you mentioned, they're very versatile. So, you're recruiting a really outstanding group of linebackers that can play multiple roles in your defense. So, these are guys that they really like, that they really press for. I think that, with Jaden Harmon, this is a physical guy. I mean, he's got one of the best highlight films that you're going to see in the country at the linebacker position, just from a physical standpoint, but he's also light. He can run. You see him out there covering in space. He can cover in the slot. And, he was one of those kids that Alabama they weren't going to pass on just because they had X number of linebacker commitments already. And there were still a few guys out there, what's his name? Ty Jackson.
Tim's guy. Yeah.
The number 1 linebacker in the country. Alabama still loves him. I mean, that's a guy that they would still probably take a commitment from, even with Harmon's decision. But, they were ready to go ahead and take his commitment. He was on campus yesterday, and I think it was an easy choice for him.
So Joseph, on April 14th of 2024, did you have Alabama with this number of linebackers on your bingo card? Or is this?
Of course I did. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, definitely had Alabama having this many linebackers, 4 commitments at the position in as many weeks. I think the most impressive thing, in my opinion, is just how quickly some of these recruitments have been able to develop. Offering Luke Metz, landing a commitment from him a few weeks later. Same situation here with Jaden Harmon. He received an offer on March 21st following a visit with the Crimson Tide, returned for A-Day game, and ended up committed to Alabama. It's funny because he initially told me that his plan was to have his decision known by mid-April and then announce it a month later in May. But it's just kind of a testament to the recruiting prowess of this new staff, their ability to get prospects on campus, make a strong impression, and make it, feel like a family and make them want to commit and join forces with the Tide. So, I think this is, once again, like Tim and Andrew mentioned, very fun player to watch. We're going to get into the highlights here, but Alabama's done an exceptional job on that side of the ball, and much credit to Kane Womack, defensive coordinator, inside linebackers coach, for leading the way there.
Yeah, Joseph just mentioned it, Tim. Kane Womack, the defensive coordinator, also coaches the inside linebackers. Again, as we'll see coming up here with Harmon, he can do some different things at those linebacker positions. But is this straight from Kane Womack, Tim, in terms of, identifying these guys, or was there already some identification that had taken place with the previous staff and now there's some carryover? Because it's pretty prolific to see this sort of number come together as quickly as it has at a particular position.
Yeah, you know what it tells me is that he wanted to flip his linebacker room as quick as he could, find guys. And again, it's a different system, so everybody doesn't really fit. You see those smaller guys that I mean, people are calling Jaden. They're calling him small, but I mean, he's going to be 6'1", 200, 215 pounds. He's going to be a problem. Duke Johnson. And a lot of what happens when you compare people, you're comparing them now heading into their senior year, right? 17 years old. Going into the summer, they're going to look a lot different after a freshman year in college, right? They're going to look a lot different after one semester. So I think Kane's kind of flexing that muscle as the DC, but I know Alabama recruits, as a unit, but these are guys where I think, you like a guy at your position. I think the defensive guys have a lot of leeway, and obviously he feels good with the guys he's pushing. Again, they evaluated over 100 different linebackers to get down to that 8 they really wanted. And they've had to turn away guys that they were leading for, guys that were highly ranked, and guys that fans probably think you should take based off their ranking, bigger guys even, but they passed on guys to get the ones they've got. They like the unit they've got right now.
And if it's the right guy that's still out there, as we just talked about with Andrew, would they even take another linebacker, you think?
I mean, I think you get to that position where at the end of every class, you have a couple of spots for best available, right?
Mm-hmm.
Ty's one of those guys. I mean, he's a sign, he's a take in the morning of signing day type of guy. He's that good. So still got guys they're looking at. Obviously that's a big fight. He's one of the Ty Jackson, one of the top linebackers in the country, but I do think he falls in that category of too good to pass up.
Let's start the highlights here. And here we see Jaden working off the edge and is able to get some pressure, get a strip sack. That leads off his highlights. I like this right here. Look at this guy in space. This is almost like the Husky position or a strong side linebacker maybe that is playing out into the slot. And you'll see it here with his agility. And watch this, reaction, instincts, Andrew. You love to see that from a linebacker in coverage.
Yeah, I mean, that's, as we said earlier, I mean, this is a guy that, kind of fits the bill with some of these other linebackers in the class, guys that can get out, guys that can make plays in space. And you see him right there, that closing speed, just outstanding. I mean, you see him rushing off the edge. And, Duke Johnson, and, looking back at Duke Johnson, kid out of Georgia, another kid out of Georgia that I felt like, you look at former Clemson linebacker Isaiah Simmons, who's now in the NFL. I think he's still with the Cardinals, but kind of similar to him in that regard. He can play all over the field, can play safety, can play linebacker, can rush off the edge, and then you get Jaedon Harmon, a guy who can rush off the edge, who can play in space, who can play in the box. I mean, this is a physical guy who's 6'1", 200 and, as Tim mentioned, 210, 215 pounds. I think his huddle page says 215, but some of those players usually give him a couple extra pounds on there. But I don't think he's 205. He's a guy that can run, and he plays great high school football competition.
Yeah, you hit on that, Joseph. You think about Rome High School and the preparation that a couple of these guys coming from the state of Georgia and the state of Alabama as well. You like, too, the development aspect when you watch a guy like this. It's some of the perceived little things as far as technique, how he plays with leverage, instinctful, but also doesn't go rogue and just try to make plays for the sake of making plays. And, guys, when we talk about linebackers in this class, this is another area, too, special teams. You like to see this, too, don't you, Joseph?
Oh, you most definitely do. Something that On Three's Charles Power said in his breakdown of Jaden Harmon's game is just how he's a hair on fire defender. He's always active, but like you mentioned before, he kind of plays with control, plays within the structure of the defense. Doesn't go outside the limits of that. One thing that's also interesting that he mentioned too is that our fellow scouting analyst Cody Belair, he brought up Terrell Bernard, highly productive second year, coming into his third year with the Buffalo Bills out of Baylor, was a third-round pick. And Cody worked with Baylor and was scouting Terrell Bernard and mentioned Jaden Harmon as the ideal comparison for them, just in terms of not having necessarily, like not being the longest linebackers per se, but being very active defenders, tackling the ball and, tackling with great form as well. So, the tape is fun to watch. He's a highly productive player, 80 tackles last season, 5 sacks, 3 pass breakups and interceptions. So somebody that Alabama fans should be very excited about.
The
Sudden
thing,
and
Travis,
violent, Tim.
the thing that stands out, that's what I was about to say, is he doesn't just bring you down, he stops you. He hits you, you're going backwards. Violent is exactly the term. Savage, dog, all those things factor in here because he is hair on fire. That kind of is. I agree with that with Charles Power. And if you watch him, there's bad intentions on every play. And you see everything he's doing. And he's all over the field. This isn't a guy that's just mopping up between the tackles. Again, coming off the edge, lining up in traffic. Look at him. Very, very excited to hit you. You know what I mean? That's not someone when you're on the other team and your son's playing, you're really hyped and excited to have a chance for him to lay the wood to you.
Yeah. And again, showing some attributes that you even see from that Husky position in a Kane Womack defense, eyes to the quarterback and then reacting to that. And boy, just playing to the field right here in these one-on-one situations for a guy that is 6'1", 210 pounds against smaller receivers and able to make those tackles like he does in the open field. Maybe see a little Ryan Anderson going back a ways in his approach. But so, Andrew, when you think about where this class sits right now with the addition of Jaden Harmon, the balance of it so far. Now, we talked about a big offensive addition here just in the last 24 hours or so with Latsier Brooks, but where do you think we're headed from here, Andrew?
Yeah, I don't know if they're going to get another linebacker commit in the next week or so, but I do think we're probably going to see a little bit of a slowdown. I mean, this is commitment number 10 for Alabama, and we're still in the middle of April. We're about to hit the spring evaluation period where Alabama's going to go out on the road, see a lot of kids. The recruiting boards are going to, kids are going to move down the board. Kids are going to move up the board over these next 2 months as we get into spring evals, summer camps. So it's going to be interesting to kind of see. I do think that there are probably a few guys that are out there that could be closing in on decisions. On the offense side of the ball, you got to look for a player like Jackson Lloyd, top 30 offensive player in the top 30 offensive lineman in the country, top 5 overall lineman. That's a guy that we could see making a decision here in the next month or so. Josiah Sharma, 4-star defensive lineman who was back in Tuscaloosa this past weekend. Third visit to Tuscaloosa since February. So that's I don't know if that's a telling sign, but it certainly shows that Alabama has his attention. So we'll see kind of what happens there. But got some big visits coming up. You got Dejon Lee coming in next weekend, Dawson Merritt coming in next weekend for visits. So those are some things that we're going to be some players that we're going to be watching pretty closely. But as far as the next commitment, just have to kind of wait and see. I don't think we were talking about Jaden Harmon committing this weekend a week ago. We certainly weren't talking about Latsier Brooks committing a week ago. So those two guys are now on board. I know Alabama fans and Alabama coaches are very excited to have both of those guys.
We're excited about having you right here with us on the YouTube home for BamaOnLine.com. If you haven't subscribed to our YouTube channel yet, we certainly hope you'll take the time to do that. Hit that subscribe button, turn on those notifications. You'll get all of our YouTube content as it drops right here. And of course, first and foremost, you want to be with us at BamaOnLine.com, the roundtable. If you noticed here in the last 10 minutes, everything happened on the roundtable. So that's where you want to be 24/7 at On3 with us at BamaOnLine.com. So Joseph, what about some feedback from A-Day? Because Tim has talked about this in the last couple of weeks. So many kids, so many guys, prospects have come through just practice to practice, day to day. What is that sort of feedback been like?
Yeah, so it's been really interesting, talking with some of these recruits, reaching out, getting some responses back. Daryl Duke Johnson, Alabama's highest rated commitment in this 2025 class, said that he felt at home. He really enjoyed the atmosphere there. at 8A game, being welcomed by the fans. Josiah Sharma chipped in as well and kind of echoed some of those same sentiments and gave out an extended Roll Tide at the end of his response there. Just enjoyed being around them. We got some feedback from a signee as well, Kevin Riley, class of 2024 running back signee, just talking about the talent there at Bama. And we've got some more on the BOL roundtable as well. But, it really seems like Alabama made a strong impression on the recruits who were in attendance. You saw Nick Saban out there talking to one of Alabama's top, offensive lineman targets, and Michael Carroll took a picture with him. And, it just seemed like the vibe, the energy, the stadium, being it was just exceptional turnout for a spring game, especially in comparison to what you've seen from some other schools. There was a lot of excitement there. The game was on ESPN, kind of created for, just like, a September atmosphere in April, so to speak, it seems like. So, yeah, definitely a lot of positive reactions coming in.
Hey, Tim, am I allowed to use the TP words yet? I mean, we're just a couple days away. I'm not talking about toilet paper either.
Yeah,
so.
We had the portal. I mean, we've had quite the busy weekend. You had, again, Lightseer Brooks. I'm as excited about him as anybody in this class so far. Maybe it's just because everybody else is on defense, but I'm glad to see somebody scoring touchdowns instead of preventing them. Basketball with the huge commitment, with Chris Youngblood, again, Nate Oates is, we're talking recruiting. We got to touch on Nate Oates because he goes and gets two guys in the portal that are perfect fits. And it's how quick he did it, right? It is like these things, when the longer they go on, the worse it usually is for you, right? So he comes in and gets both of those guys done. But yeah, we had the portal. You had reports this morning that Tony Mitchell could be in the portal. Tony Mitchell said it's capped. We know Tony's capped before, so we don't really. Yeah, Tony the trickster. We don't know what's happening, but yeah, the portal's going to be active. It's not a surprise. I know everybody's going to tweet that. The portal's going to be active. There's going to be, yeah. Signing day is going to be busy. Tweet it out. A lot of people trying to flip kids. There's
welcome to the new world.
Literally, like it's groundbreaking.
That's a day that ends with Y now.
There's guys entering the portal. We'll go to other schools. Oh, okay, shoot. Let's rush to the board and get these stories up. But, yeah, it's going to be interesting. I think a lot of the major guys have already decided what they were going to do after Saban. So I think a lot of it could be them trying to get people in from the portal. And, again, you don't really know what the options are. You don't really know yet who's going in the portal when they are. But it's going to start trickling out because we've got, day and a half till the portal. So it's about to start trickling out because the smart kids are like, I'm expected to go in, go ahead and start recruiting me. They're trying to get a jump start on it.
Joseph, by the way, right now at BamaOnLine.com has an outstanding interview with Chris Youngblood, the South Florida transfer on the hoop side, who is going to make his way to Tuscaloosa with that fifth year, that COVID year. Great interview from Joseph. You need to check that out right now. On Nate Oates' newest addition to his roster, Rylan Griffin hits the portal. Davin Cosby hits the portal. Chris Parker. But then you start replenishing with guys like Houston Millette, Chris Youngblood. So, Joseph, tell us a little bit more about what you were able to learn about Youngblood, a Tuscaloosa native, played his high school ball, I guess, over in the Atlanta area. It's kind of interesting, too, guys, because Antoine Petway, I think, missed Youngblood by a year at Kennesaw State because he transferred to South Florida. But now Nate Oates will get the benefit of being able to coach the 6'4", 218-pound guard. What went into that, Joseph, from what you were able to glean from Mr. Youngblood?
Yeah, so how much time do we have? Because I can go on and on. There's just a lot to unpack here. You mentioned that he's a Tuscaloosa native. His mom went to University of Alabama. Dad's from Tuscaloosa. So there's ties there, to the area and to the school as well. And Youngblood, we have that feature on BamaOnLine.com right now, but just kind of the bare bones of it, hit the portal earlier this week. Bama was kind of the school that they were looking at just in terms of fit and an NBA style offense, being able to capitalize on his shooting. And look, if you go on Twitter right now, go on YouTube, look up some of his highlight reels. It's incredible, for somebody who's built the way he is, 6'4", 210, 215 pounds. Kind of looks like a linebacker, like Alabama could add another linebacker in him there, but he shoots the ball so well, 40% from three in at least three straight seasons. Went from Kennesaw State to USF because his head coach made that move there, but was really looking for that next step and to get him to the NBA. And, Alabama made a very strong impression on him. Nate Oates had a 2-hour Zoom call with him on Thursday. And, really kind of set the tone there, was able to land that visit this weekend, and over 40 programs reached out, and, he ended up going to Alabama. But I would definitely check out that feature to learn a little bit more about how everything went down. But, Youngblood's somebody that Alabama fans should be very excited about. So same with Houston and Mallet, just with their ability to shoot the ball from the perimeter. And it's going to be interesting to monitor Alabama basketball and, what goes on in the portal here in the next few days and weeks.
Yeah, Tim, these Mallet and now Youngblood, the things that stand out, you stay old with guys like that coming in. They've been around, and they both shoot north of 40% from three. In fact, I think Youngblood's also north of 80% from the free throw line. So you're able to connect some dots to Nate Oates' type pretty quickly.
Yeah, and you also get maturity, right? Experience, guys who've been through a lot. There's a hunger that's going to factor in there. And I mean, Alabama's, they're going to close in possibly, and it's still so many variables, but they can have a top 5 overall roster when all's said and done. And to be honest, it's not even a reach to get in the top 5. They have a few dominoes fall their way, particularly with guys staying like Mark Sears and Grant Nelson. If they lost everybody, in all honesty, if they lost everybody and brought in this class, you'd be kind of excited, right? It's a really good class. If you count the 2 portal guys plus the prep guys, it's a good class just out of the gate without anybody. So anybody else you add, and they'll definitely keep some guys. So they're bordering on the top 5 class coming off of Final Four. Pretty good things happening there in the middle of all the football stuff going on.
Absolutely. You watch Youngblood, and he's got some mid-range game to him. So I'm kind of wondering if he'll have a little bit of the mid-range green light like Aaron Estrada had it. He will not. Tim, watch this.
That's the fastest way to the bench. That is the fastest. We had that.
He likes that elbow. He likes that elbow jumper, Tim.
Who is the kid? That's got to
go away, doesn't it?
I'm drawing a blank. Who is the kid that shot lights out in the tournament that they showed? He only hit like all layups or 3-pointers. Who was that guy that he beat?
The kid from that beat Kentucky.
Yeah, yes. All right.
Yeah.
Volkey. His shot chart looks just like Alabama's. I mean, it literally is like he had that one. I remember they showed me his shot chart, and I saw one shot by the free throw line. I'm like, what happened?
Yeah, did you bet he doesn't have a 9th year of eligibility?
Yeah, I don't see the mid-range being encouraged by Nate Oates. I think they've made a lot of money near the rim and from outside the arc. Plus, you shoot 40%, shoot 10 a game. You're going to pile the points up there pretty quick. I think he averaged 5 or 6 a game. So, obviously, guys that they fit. And again, you get them in really quick, really fast. They're already committed, 2 shooters. You kind of know what you're dealing with. So basketball is going in the right direction, which we haven't really talked about a lot over our history in this, covering Alabama. At the same time, we're talking about Alabama with football. So it's been it's been a good weekend for Alabama fans. The baseball team beat the number 1 team in the country yesterday. And that doesn't sound like a lot if you're in the major leagues, but it's hard to beat these really good teams in college. They bring their aces out, guys that are going to go high. So just an extremely busy week. You can see Andrew Bones still like dragging.
Yeah. Andrew's got the energy, man.
He needs a nap.
It's not getting sponsored by Monster.
It's not the work, it's the children. Let's be clear, Andrew.
Look, I can empathize with that, dude.
Andrew stacked the commitments, and this is what happens.
I think that Latsier Brooks commitment juiced up Andrew a little bit, right, Andrew? I mean, we talked about it yesterday, post-commitment, but sort of in the aftermath, thinking about what Alabama's getting with that guy, Pocket Rocket. I mean, he can just flat out go.
I mean, he is it's incredible. I mean, I think it was last Sunday I called Tim and we were talking about Brooks, and over the course of the next few days we were trying to track down some information on the kid, and finally tracked him down, watched his highlights. We're like, man, how is this guy so underrated? And I called Brooks, got him on the phone. I think it was Wednesday night, and we started talking, and he said, yeah, only have official visit scheduled to Alabama for the summer. Nothing else right now. And we knew that he was going to or had a visit planned for Kentucky for Friday. And I was like, well, what about the visit to Kentucky? Oh, no, I canceled that. I said, okay, so only Bama. Yep, just Bama. That's it. Not going anywhere else. I was like, are you committed? And he goes, oh yeah, I committed yesterday. It's like, oh, okay. So are we about to post this? He's like, oh no, we're gonna post it on Saturday. So it was good to talk to him. He's one of those kids that just only thing he does is play football. Doesn't run track, but he ran a 10.8 in the 100 meters when he was in 8th grade and hasn't been on the track
there,
team.
done that.
Yeah. He's like, whatever. I'm fast.
I already run sub 11.
So it's like the episode of Seinfeld. He ran and he retired. One run, can't beat me. I'm done.
Out.
You guys, it's not worth my sweat. I'm done.
It's probably something we all should consider.
I agree with Andrew. His film, like I watched it, like I'm pretty excited. It's just one of those guys. And then I calmed down, watched it again. Like I wanted to watch it with fresh eyes, but I sent out links in the meantime to guys in the NFL, other colleges, high school guys I trust. Obviously, Charles Power, Cody Belair watched him, and it's nothing but good feedback. I mean, it's not proper to call him a sleeper. It's not proper to call him a diamond in the rough. It is just, there's nobody watching Jersey. Is everybody at the Jersey Shore? How we miss this guy?
Well, he's only been to one camp. Went to one camp his entire high school career, and it was at Alabama last summer. Doesn't have social media. Doesn't post his offers on social media.
So he hadn't done like the industry circuit, like the different industry camps and things like combines, things like that.
Nothing like that. So nobody's seen him. But then he goes in and sets all these records in New Jersey, and still people are like, who is this kid? He hasn't gone to any camps. Nobody's seen him. Nobody has been able to really put their eyes on him and evaluate him in person. But you watch his film and you're like, this is a top 5 wide receiver in the country.
But this is still like Metro Philly, where he's coming from. He's Butte, Montana, or something. But I guess it happens. Alabama, I guess, is fine with it. Wanted to get your thoughts too, Joseph, because we hadn't heard from you on Latsier Brooks since his commitment.
Yeah, it was actually incredible watching this film, and sometimes I was like scratching my head, wondering why there wasn't a safety over the top. Like he's a burner, he'll beat you over the top, but I mean he's exceptional. Double moves and can create space with ease. And actually does a really good job. I think a lot of the focus obviously goes to that speed. It's good to say that he clocks in. I think like at 22.6 miles per hour. So he's got a lot of speed, but he's also got really good hand-eye coordination, can hide point the football, has pretty good athleticism as well for a guy who's 5'10", around that height, 180 pounds, that's something that's very encouraging to see. So, we saw someone mention, Tyreek Hill on the message board. I like what Tim said, just in terms of like the feel of a Jalen Waddle, just in terms of that kind of playing style. I really like that comparison watching him. But, I can see where, some people will say Tyreek Hill just because if you're playing against him in high school, you just got out of, your algebra test and you had to play against him on Friday night. That is like going up against Tyreek Hill, just how dynamic he is and how quick-footed he is. It's fun watching his film. Guy, the production's there, being a South Jersey Offensive Player of the Year, over 1,000 receiving yards. I can't wait to see what he does in his senior year. If we can potentially get an in-person eval just in terms of seeing him at a camp or sometime down the line.
Yeah, I can get the Waddle comp too, because the thing about Jalen was and is, he wasn't the tallest dude in the world, but he could still, vertical must be 40 plus. I mean, because he could just go up and get it, and we see some of that from Brooks. I got a
comment to make on that. I got a comment. So I asked his coach the other day, what his vertical was, and he said, we don't really know because, we have this like standard vertical jump thing in our weight room. He goes, every time he jumps, he goes through the roof in their weight room. He goes, so we don't really know how high he can really go. I was like, oh, can't you take that outside and try to figure it out?
A space shuttle in there.
See, the thing about it.
So
go ahead. I'm sorry.
I was just saying, I do wish he would get to some camps and go out there and get
document some of this stuff.
Well, he did ran a 4.40 at Alabama's camp last summer, and that's when Alabama first noticed him. I'm sure they probably got some other measurables last summer from him and verticals and stuff like that. But man, he's one heck of an athlete.
Twitchy AF.
The the thing that when you mention Waddle, Tyreek Hill, whoever you want to mention, they go, he's nothing like Tyreek Hill. I know he's 11 years younger than him. I mean, you got to compare them. Waddle wasn't even a 5-star. Waddle was not even a 5-star, just a reference. And that a lot of that was he played small private school football in Texas. He certainly had the talent. He wasn't that big. There was boxes they wanted to check. But Waddle in high school looks similar to this. If he's doing it against Jersey kids, a bigger level of competition. Tyreek Hill, I mean, he went to Oklahoma State. He didn't have 7,000 offers. He's from Georgia.
Ended up at West Alabama, or was
Yeah.
at West Alabama. Yeah.
He was considered a track guy. He wasn't considered what he is. Tyreek isn't what he is now. These kids are 17 years old. Of course, when I say he reminds me of Waddle, I mean at the same stage. I don't mean all-pro wide receiver Jalen Waddle. You know what I mean? There's a 7, 8, 10-year gap with some of these guys. I mean that we're comparing them at the same stage. You know, we had that discussion yesterday about the linebackers. They're light. They're 17. They hardly ever lose weight in college. Any adult, what do they call it? The freshman 15.
You watch the young linebackers for Alabama in the 8A game. That's the thing that you notice. I mean, Okoronkwo will flat out bring it. I did notice that. But he needs to add Sterling Dixon. I mean, these are all guys that have to typically take that step, right?
Well, if you look at the guys the other schools are signing, they're very similar in size. I don't know where some of the Alabama fans are seeing Bama play 6'4", 265, 4.45 linebackers. I haven't really seen them. That's what made like Rolando special.
Yeah.
Rolando was so special, so unique, and literally a unicorn. CJ kind of ended up that way, but Andrew knows. You remember CJ didn't look like CJ in high school. He was kind of a string bean.
CJ's freshman year at Alabama, he was about 210.
People thought CJ was too small.
CJ got on the field as a freshman because he could play that dime linebacker. He could play in coverage. That's why CJ got on the field.
You give them an unlimited cafeteria and working out where they're going crazy hungry, they're going to put on weight. So I think people they might be light now at 17. That doesn't necessarily mean they're going to be light at 19 or 20. And we saw a guy smaller than this, Nakobe Dean. Yeah. Absolutely brilliant SEC linebacker. Absolutely brilliant. He wasn't some 4'4" guy. He wasn't that big. When he go second round to the Eagles. We've seen very productive guys this size, but there's no 6'4", 260, 65 linebackers that I've seen.
All right, guys.
There are some. They're just not just not very successful anymore.
Yeah.
Well, the game's changed. You don't really want 250-pound linebackers. I mean, you see linebackers now trying to get to 230 if they're 240. So different game now, it seems like. Tim, you got anything else before we get out of here? The big news, Jaden Harmon committed to the Alabama Crimson Tide on this Sunday afternoon. Masters Sunday afternoon. I know Tim's excited about that. So
Dustin Johnson sucks. He sucks. That full swing show is awful. I should have been
Tim on his Masters pick.
When that man got $100+ million just to swap sides, I should have known that was too. And he's married to a model. I should have known he's got no motivation.
Tim got emotionally invested.
He did. He got.
Well, him.
I can show you the text on third. What time does Dustin start? What time does he tee off?
This dude didn't make it to the third day. He barely made it longer than I did. No. He should have saved it. I should have went with the big trash talking dude.
Got back on that private jet and headed back down to Jupiter, Florida.
I'm done with DJ.
Life's beautiful.
But all right, overall, guys. I mean, we got big visitors. We'll have another show tomorrow. We hope y'all jump in. And again, subscribe, like. We'd love to have you guys. We're trying to hit 10,000. Unbelievable feedback, questions. Travis's hat giveaway was a huge success. Oddly enough, Tex Tider, who is here before we are every weekday for our podcast,
love it,
won the hat. And there's nothing more justified than it just felt right for him hitting it.
Yeah, it does. The Wilt meme and everything. He nailed it. He nailed it on the number. Just Jalen Milroe passing yards, 100. Boom.
And he taunted us in the thread that said, somebody in the winner's thread, they said, how much is that hat? And he held up 100 again. They held up 100. They held up 100 again. But no, exciting. It's going to be quiet as far as recruiting a little because there won't be as many visitors for practice, obviously. But we'll have the portal. to keep us interested. And go ahead, everybody hits the portal is Bama interested, and we'll answer. They're going to do their due diligence, which they do a absolutely great job of, as do all coaching staff. So we got all that, looking forward to it, and hoping this portal window is quick.
Yes. Joseph, hey
And
man, thanks
efficient.
for jumping in with us.
Absolutely. Glad you all can have me on, and yeah, very excited about.
Always.
Yes,
Always.
Joseph
definitely.
got him a backdrop.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I like
It
that.
looks like he's got all of Kane Womack's linebacker commitments on
Yeah,
that.
it's like 26 of them up there.
There's 26 superheroes. Kane Womack's linebackers are back there.
Hey, Andrew, enjoy that final round, my man. I think we're headed to the same place here in a minute.
We
Going
will.
to take a nap like Andrew?
I'm about
That'll
to
be me. Yeah.
we're hosting a birthday party over at my house right now. So
Oh, I hear you on that one, bro. I got something coming here in a few minutes too. Hey, for Andrew Bone, Joseph Hastings, Tim Watts, Travis Reier, thanking you once again for joining us right here on the YouTube home for BamaOnLine.com. Head straight to the roundtable for continuing coverage of the latest commitment for the Alabama Crimson Tide, Jaden Harmon, 4-star linebacker from Rome, Georgia. For Andrew, Tim, JoJo, Travis Reier, thanks again. Until Monday. So long, everybody.